This is where the fun begins.
Well, this was a week for returns. Stormtroopers are back. Shore Troopers are back and being as big a dicks as ever. Clone Troopers came back. Tamura Morrison really stretched himself out on this one.
Like a panther.
Yes! 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 Yes!
And the most important return this week that cannot be ignored is Blue Milk. Awesome. No, I'm joking. The Emperor was thrown around quite a bit by mention in this episode as well, so I guess that's a pretty big deal.
Hello there.
Welcome back, everybody. It's good to have you here, good to have your ears. We're here for another episode review of Star Wars Andor. This is for episode 7 of its first season, and just offering up some very, sort of quick thoughts regarding this week's installment. I thought it was pretty decent. There wasn't anything necessarily to write home about. Again, it's very character-driven, and as normal, the writing is pretty competent, the scripting is very intelligent compared to a lot of other Star Wars shows, and even with the inclusion of all the troopers that we had in this episode, it didn't quite break into that epic space adventure that we've grown to expect from a lot of the Star Wars shows at this point. And it made for certainly some more interesting moves going forward. We definitely got a bigger insight into kind of how the rebellion is being set up, certainly from the live action standpoint. And yeah, ultimately a lot of the character interactions were really good. The acting was pretty decent, particularly from is it Genevieve O'Reilly that plays Mon Mothma? She was actually pretty good this week. So if you've been around my channel for a little bit at this point, you'll know the way that I play it. I offer up some very brief thoughts regarding the episode, then I go into my breakdown and then summarize everything at the end. So let's not waste any more time and let's break down the episode through all the major points of episode 7 of Andor. We open up with Cyril and his blue milk, which was awesome. And we get one of the more interesting aspects that have been thrown into Star Wars lore is that there are actual TV station news reporters. This might be a surprise to just me. I can't say it's something that I've particularly seen. It's always been holograms or announcements over radios or whatever. But this was cool. I liked it. This was actually refreshing. It made a difference and a nice sort of switch up to the normal means in which Star Wars plays out like news announcements. And this is where Cyril is opened up to the events of Aldhani, and it's kind of triggered him a little bit, but he's got a job interview for a bank later in the day. There's not really a huge amount else that happens with Cyril in this episode, but during the job interview, the guy that's obviously interviewing him, he realizes that Cyril was let go by the Empire and is aware of his actions for why he was let go. Cyril kind of doubles down on it and just tells him outright, and they let him have the job anyway because everybody needs a fresh start apparently. So fair enough. That's pretty much all we got with Cyril though. Then we cut to the Imperial Security Bureau's head office, and apparently Palpatine is hosting Senate meetings that will essentially allow Imperial officers to authorize searches and investigations across all worlds without question, pretty much, and basically no need for warrants at this point. We then get some interactions with Mothma and Luthen. She's pissed with him after she's just found out the events that have happened on Aldhani, and she believes the actions to be too extreme at this point, given that they're trying to set up the rebellion in secret, but Luthen thinks that it's kind of getting ridiculous to wait at this point, pretty much, and the Empire already knows that there are rebellion actions taking place across the galaxy, and the Emperor is essentially he is laying in these sanctions to limit the actions and anything that the rebels can do, which we see an example of what they're doing later on with Andor. Luthen basically says that the rebellion needs to make a statement, and they needed to start the rebellion outright with funding, so that's why they robbed what they did on Aldani, and they need to build munitions to take the fight to the Empire, pretty much. And the conversation between the two was actually really interesting. I enjoyed it. Then we cut back very, very briefly to Cinta, who seemingly escaped the breakout from last week's episode. And up to this point, actually, the music and the score that was used for the episode was actually really decent. And then we catch up very quickly with Val, who meets with a red-hooded woman. I don't believe she got named, but the red-hooded woman is rather cold regarding Taramin and Nemik's death in last week's episode, and demands that Andor be killed. She's commissioning Val basically to kill Cassian and make sure that all the actions that have happened so far to create the rebellion at this point as it is do not leak out, and Val does not seem too comfortable with this mission. In the meantime, Cassian returns to Ferrix, returns to his mother, and basically wants to get her the fuck out of there. And she informs him that, he's basically going to be lynch mobbed if he comes back, if anybody sees him. He makes a few trips around. He returns to visit Bix and offer up some credits to basically pay off a few people that he owed as well. And they basically tell him that he needs to get the fuck off world, and they don't want anything to do with him anymore because it is a danger. In the meantime, though, we cut back to Mon Mothma on Coruscant, and she's trying to recruit a friend called Tay. I forget his surname, but she basically wants to sign him up as a chairman for a charity as a financial front cover, basically for rebel movement and rebel activity to move funds around so that they can start building the necessary artillery that they need to take the fight to the Empire. And she pretty much all but confirms that she's a rebel, and I think Tay pretty much does the same, but the interactions between the two were really, really good, and again, just interesting to listen to. All the scripting in this episode was really cleverly done, and it just made for engaging content. And I think for the first time in a few weeks, it actually managed to hold my attention fully, besides last week. Then we obviously catch up with Cassian, who thinks that his mother is coming with him, but she informs him that a rebellion is starting here on Ferrix, and she's not just going to leave it behind, pretty much. She wants to be part of something and believes that Cassian could do the same, but Cassian doesn't want any part in it. And then after that, Cassian's mother also informs him that his sister is dead. There were no survivors on Kenari. I don't believe we actually got a conclusion to the story on Kenari. As far as I remember, his mother picked him up off-world and they just left. I actually don't know much else regarding that. Again, there might have been something that I missed, but I don't believe I did. Then the other interesting part is we catch up with Belvin, who, of course, is the Imperial officer suspicious of Miro, and he calls her out in front of everyone and says that she's not fucking doing her job. She's trying to intervene. She's trying to undercut everybody else in the room. And the commander basically says, are you willing for this laundry to be aired openly? And she says, yeah, sure. She informs him that, basically there's rebel activity growing everywhere, and she's got evidence that connects it directly to Ferrix with the stuff that she mentioned earlier in the season that, is mainly from her sector. And she manages to convince the commander that she knows what the fuck she's doing. She's got all the necessary information to commit an investigation, and he transfers the Molana 1 investigation to her, but tells her to watch her back. Basically, he's impressed by her loose play of the rules and says that every now and then people need to if you want to get the job done. Then, concluding this episode, pretty much, we stick with Andor. He's jumped to a new world called Nivos, I think, and he's hiding out and going by the new name of Keith. And it's quite interesting actually with the set design for Nivos. It looks very much like a sort of combination beach world where you can just hang out. It's very much got resorts everywhere. I think it's very much a holiday destination, but the Imperial presence is very prevalent on world. The shore troopers on world are chasing around a bunch of kids, basically trying to stop them from causing trouble, essentially, but it seems rather unfair given that they're not actually doing anything. And they've dispatched KX droids to try and dispense with all of the actions that are going on, with all of the rebel activity, as they put it, happening around. And one shore trooper accosts Cassian and says, like, you look really shifty, basically, and demands that a KX droid come and keep a lookout on him. But the phrasing that the officer used suggested hang. So the KX droid picks Andor up by the neck and tries to choke him to death. Then we see how the Imperial presence is truly starting to quell any rebel action anywhere, by just indiscriminately arresting people and throwing them away for months under false charges. And Cassian is one of them, who's thrown away and arrested again for apparently anti-imperial activity and just causing disruptions and chaos, which obviously he didn't do, but the officer just threw him away because they can now, pretty much. Clearly Palpatine has enacted his plan, and Imperials now have pretty much free reign to do what the fuck they want. And people are just getting arrested left, right, and centre for seemingly disconnected actions or movements. So that's my breakdown of the episode. Those were some of the larger moments that really just kind of needed to be drew. This didn't feel necessarily like the start of a new arc, which was interesting. It felt very much independent to everything else that we've received so far, as I didn't spend too much time with any particular character. We definitely got a fairer balance this week. Cyril is still very much a story that I'm not interested in, but we got a lot more interaction with Luthen and Mothma particularly, and what they're trying to do. Some brief catch-ups with Vel and Cinta, and we got an idea of kind of how the rebellion is starting to come together now, and the belief that people have for trying to basically eradicate the Empire. And we got a firm idea really of how the Imperials have become such an oppressive dictatorship pretty much across the galaxy. And at this point, I want to assume that we're firmly amongst the same antics that are going on in Star Wars Rebels at the same time at this point. I'm pretty sure Andor takes place 5 years before Rogue One, so it would put it around the same time as Rebels. So in Rebels, obviously, it's played off a little bit more comedically, but we are seeing an ever-growing Imperial regime across the galaxy, and by the time of Season 4 of Rebels, we return to Ezra's planet of Lothal, and it's completely decimated, and that's just in the space of like 3 years of the timeline. So we're really starting to take shape with what the Imperials are doing, and I'm really interested to see where they're going from here. I wasn't too keen on the series in the first couple of weeks, even though I praised what it did, and what it has done since then has been awesome. The visual effects last week with the escape from Aldhani was beautiful, and the set dressing and all the CG seems to be pretty solid throughout the series. So it's a really good investment from Disney so far with the Andor series. So I'm definitely up for what they've got next. And I would kind of appreciate more episodes like this, where it doesn't necessarily need to tie into another arc, but I'm pretty sure we're setting up for another one where we're presumably next week going to catch up with Andor in a prison cell, and who knows, we saw Saw Gerrera in the trailer for this series, so hopefully this will be the point where he starts to meet him or get contacts to him. Those are my thoughts though, and I'd love to hear yours, so drop them in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe on the way out, as again I will be reviewing the remainder of Andor, and I'll be doing Tales of the Jedi next week, which I'm extremely excited for. If you are unaware, or if you're new to the channel, I actually did reviews for episodes 6, 7, 8, and 9 of She-Hulk, and you can definitely go and check them out if you're interested. Same with The Walking Dead, I'm doing that for its final part of season 11, the final episodes. And I've got a lot more content planned that will be on the way very soon. So yeah, definitely subscribe, leave a like, drop a comment down below. What did you think of this week's episode? And until then, take care, and may the Force be with you.